Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I will be talking about my top 10 favorite erotica romances. I've been doing this type of video over the last couple of months where I do a top 10 for my favorite romance subgenres. So I will link the other ones that I've done already. I have a dark romance one, a sci-fi, paranormal, and fantasy romance, as well as one on mystery and suspense romances. So obviously for today's video, I'm going to be talking about my top 10 favorite erotica romances. And a lot of these on my list are quite old, like I read them back in the day, so I don't fully remember if they are considered erotica or not. If there are some that I mentioned that are not technically erotica, please feel free to correct me in the comments. I do feel like erotica is a one subgenre that people are still confused about and they don't know how to differentiate it from other subgenres in romance. And I mean, I also get confused on how you classify erotica. So the actual definition of an erotica romance is stories written about the development of a romantic relationship through sexual interaction. The sex is an inherent part of the story, character growth, and relationship development, and could not be removed without damaging the storyline. Basically, sex is the main point and main focus of the story, so if you take out all of the sex scenes and all of the sex-related content, the book will just fall apart. Like, it won't be a book anymore. I hope that kind of clears up what erotica romance is, because I feel like a lot of people just think, oh, if it has a couple of sex scenes or smut, then that classifies it as erotica, but that is not true. The story and the romantic relationship has to be driven by any kind of sexual themes. I feel like I don't really read the subgenre anymore, so if you have any good recommendations of some ones that were recently published, please leave them down below. I want to preface that I'm not going to be explaining these books very well. All of my top 10 favorite erotica romances are all kind of very similar. It's usually just a couple that meet, have lots of sex, and it's kind of the same formula over and over again, and like they're kind of different in their own unique way, but at the end of the day, they all have the same type of plot. I also feel like there are so many books that you could classify as erotica that are my favorites that I'm not including on this list, which I kind of hate, but I just feel like it's such a hard subgenre to classify. So I'm sure there are books that I really love that are considered erotica that I'm not including on this list because I don't know if I should classify them as the subgenre or not. Alright, so let's get into my top 10 favorite erotica romances of all time. And coming in at number 10 is the Breathless series by Maya Banks. Each book in the series follows a different couple. The first book is Rush. Rush follows Gabe, who is a very successful and wealthy businessman, and he ends up being very infatuated with his best friend's little sister, who is very innocent and a lot younger. Mia has always had a crush on Gabe, but she always thought that he was kind of out of her league. Suddenly he is giving her all this attention and he kind of sweeps her up into this very intoxicating relationship, kind of. I really enjoyed this trilogy. I feel like the first book is my favorite. I read it years ago. I would definitely have to reread it to figure out which one is my favorite, but I really enjoyed this trilogy. I thought it was very fun, dramatic, and intense. This is definitely one that I think of when I think of erotica romance. Like, this one I feel like is very true to the subgenre. Coming in at number 9 is the Crossfire series by Sylvia Day. The first book, Bare to You, follows Gideon and Eva, who both have very dark, mysterious, and damaged pasts. They meet and have this sort of, I wouldn't say friends with benefits thing, more just like a benefits thing. Like I said, all of these books are kind of the same thing, just done differently and have different characters. I really enjoyed this series. I read it back in the day. I really enjoyed the characters and the romance. I will say Eva did annoy me at sometimes throughout the series, but I do think it is one of the better ones that came out back in like 2012. I really enjoy the author's writing. I have read some other books by Sylvia Day, and I will say the Crossfire series is my favorite of hers. Coming in at number 8 is the Beautiful Bastard series by Christina Lauren. The first book is Beautiful Bastard, and this follows Chloe, who is a new intern at this company, and she ends up having a sexual relationship with her boss. And they are definitely enemies. They really don't like each other. I really love the series. It definitely isn't as dark and serious as the other ones I'm going to talk about. This one is way more fun and light. It's been years since I've read the series, but I really loved it back in the day, and I really want to reread it. I would definitely recommend this one if you are new to the subgenre and you haven't read a lot of erotica romance. I think this one is a pretty good one to start with because it's nothing super heavy or complicated. This series and the Wild Seasons series is definitely my favorite by Christina Lauren. I really love their older stuff. Coming in at number 7 is Dirty Filthy Rich Men by Lorelyn Page. This is a duology and it does follow the same couple. I feel like this one also kind of classifies as dark romance a little bit. Like, it has way darker themes. This follows Sabrina when she was a freshman. She kind of got wrapped up in these two men who were very mysterious and dark. She was trying to get one of their attention, but she ended up getting the attention of the other guy. I can't remember why they got separated and stuff, but 10 years later, Sabrina is kind of back in their world. She, I think, applies to work at their company, and she ends up getting wrapped up in everything once again. This book has a lot of secrets. It's very dramatic. It's very intense. Like I said, it's definitely darker. I will say there are some like dubious consent scenes and stuff, and there is like some sexual assault. I just thought this book was very different, especially for Lorelyn Page. And I really enjoyed the storyline, and I thought the characters were pretty interesting and different. This is just one that has always stood out to me when I think of Lorelyn Page, and she has definitely written a lot of erotica books over the years, and this, in my opinion, is one of her best. Coming in at number 6 is the Sinners on Tour series by Olivia Cunning. The first book is Backstage Pass, and this follows Brian, who is the songwriter and guitarist for this band, and he has currently lost his creative spark. He feels like he can't really write music, and in comes our female character Myrna, who is a psychologist, and her and Brian really hit it off, and suddenly she becomes his muse and he gets inspired to do music again. I really love this series. It follows 5 band members and they each have their own book and their own romance. I think the first and second book are my favorite in the series. I still loved the entire series. I love the band and all of their romances. This series is really fun, really funny. It's nothing super deep or heavy, but you just automatically feel connected to the characters and you just want them all to have their own happy ending and to be successful. I think this is one of the first rockstar romance that I had ever read back in the day, and I absolutely devoured the series. Olivia Cunning also has a bunch of other erotica romances, but this is probably my favorite by her. I also haven't read the spin-off yet. I think I've only read the first book in that series, and I definitely need to continue. Coming in at number 5 is Man Whore by Katie Evans. This is a duology and it follows the same couple. This one I wasn't sure if I classify as erotica. I was also thinking about if I classify Real by Katie Evans as erotica or not. So this one I don't know if it exactly fits the subgenre, but I'm gonna mention it anyways. This follows a female character who is a journalist, I do believe, where she's writing this expose on our male character who is very mysterious, very closed off. He's this successful bachelor and everybody wants to get the scoop on who he is, but our female character is the one who gets to interview him, but she becomes very wrapped up in his world. I really liked the romance and the characters. I loved the writing. I thought, again, it was a very intense, intoxicating romance. I'm obsessed with this cover. I think it's so pretty, and this is definitely one of my favorites by Katie Evans. I love this series and her Real series. And coming in at number 4, I'm definitely cheating with this one because it is 2 separate series, but that is the This Man series by Jodi Ellen Malpez and the One Night series by Jodi Ellen Malpez. I couldn't help myself but include them together on the same spot at number 4. I love these both equally. This the same, and because they're by the same author, I just felt like they should go together. They don't have any ties whatsoever, like they're both two separate series. This man follows our female character who is a interior designer, and she gets assigned to design the manor, which is owned by our male character Jesse, and their relationship quickly develops into something more. But Jesse is hiding a lot of secrets. He's a very mysterious playboy. I definitely recommend this series if you want something very dramatic, like very, very over the top, very emotionally exhausting, but very addicting to read. I definitely feel like it has some problems. Like, it's not the perfect book, but I still really enjoyed this series. And then the One Night series, the first book is One Night Promised. This follows our female character who works at a coffee shop, and she gets distracted by this extremely good-looking man, and he leaves her this mysterious note, and they kind of plan to have basically just one night together, but things slowly evolve into more, and our male character is also hiding a lot of secrets. He's very mysterious. This series is also very addicting and very dramatic and very emotionally heavy as well. I really loved both of these series, and they are definitely my favorites by Jem. My top three were definitely very hard for me to pick. I feel like I'm not really settled on this because a lot of these I read years ago, so I don't know which one I love more than the other, but coming in at number 3 is The Blackstone Affair by Rain Miller. The first book is Naked, and this follows Bryn, who is a university student, and on the side she does photography and she takes photos, and one day a successful businessman buys her nude portrait and he decides that he wants her. She is really hesitant about getting involved with him and his world. I really liked the characters and the romance. I remember really loving the male character, and I thought he was a great love interest, and I remember liking the female character as well. Like, I didn't find her annoying or anything like that. I will say it is a little fast-paced and it is kind of insta-lovey, but I just love the way their relationship progressed, and I loved this whole series. Like, I love the way it was done, and I loved the writing, and I don't know, this one just really stood out to me, and it's one of my favorites in this subgenre. Coming in at number 2 is the Beauty series by Georgia Cates. The first book is Beauty from Pain, and again, this follows a successful, wealthy bachelor, and of course, he's not interested in any real relationship, and he meets our female character who is a musician, I think, and they decide to have a 3-month affair and then go their separate ways. I thought this one was definitely different for the subgenre. I feel like it had very much a different plot, but it obviously had a lot of similarities to books that came out back in like 2012. I really enjoyed the characters and the romance, and I loved the whole trilogy. It does follow the same couple. This one is definitely not as heavy or intense as the other ones. I feel like this one is a little bit more lighthearted, or not as serious, I guess. But then again, it has been years since I've read it, so I could be completely wrong. I could be remembering things wrong. But I really love Georgia Cates, and I really enjoyed this series, and I definitely want to reread it because it's been a long time. But this is obviously one of my favorite erotica romances. And finally, coming in at number 1, this I think is my favorite erotica romance, and that is the Fixed series by Laura Lynn Page. The first book, Fixed on You, follows Elena, who kind of has a dark past. She is known for stalking and having restraining orders, but she has now changed her ways, and she's trying to put all of her focus in her work and to be more successful and work her way up in the nightclub that she works at. But obviously she gets the attention of the nightclub owner, and he wants her, and he will do anything to have her. The reason why I said I think this is my number 1 favorite is because it has been years since I've read it, and I don't know if it still lives up to my memory of it. I really feel like I should have reread all of these books before making this list, because I'm sure if I reread them all, like, they would maybe be a little mixed up. But I do remember being really wrapped up in this series, and like I couldn't stop reading it. I was very into the relationship and the character development. And I thought Elena was a very different, intriguing character. Like, she's not your typical female character in erotica romances. She's definitely a little unique. I guess there are technically like 4 or 5 books, and they do follow the same couple. This is also very intense and dramatic, but also passionate and somewhat emotional. I just really love this series, and to my memory, it is my favorite erotica romance. So those were all top 10 of my favorite erotica romances. Let me know if you have read any of these and what your thoughts are on them, or let me know what your top 10 favorite erotica romances are. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, follow me on all my other social media, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!